Good morning, everyone. Now we discuss about carbohydrate metabolism and disorder. First of all, I introduce myself, Ms. S. Vijaya Samoondeeswari, Assistant Professor, Department of Microbiology, GJ College of Arts and Science, Autonomous Pudukkottai. Now we want to know the outline of the carbohydrate metabolism and their disorders. What is carbohydrate metabolism? Carbohydrate metabolism is a is the whole of the biochemical process responsible for the metabolic formation, breakdown, and interconversion of carbohydrates in living organisms and human beings. Carbohydrates are central to many essential metabolic pathways. Then, the carbohydrate metabolism begins in the mouth, where the enzyme salivary amylase begins to break down complex sugar into monosaccharides because the carbohydrate having three type of sugar molecules, mono, di and poly sugars. In this way the complex sugar into it is converted to monosugar with the help of enzyme. This can be transported across the intestinal membrane to the bloodstream and then to body tissues. Next, we want to know what are all the clinical significance of the carbohydrate metabolism. In this carbohydrate metabolism, it may increasing or decreasing carbohydrate beyond the desired amount can affect both physiological and a metabolic process. Next, we enter the slide. What are all the contents we want to discuss in future slides? Carbohydrate metabolic disorder, role of carbohydrate, carbohydrate metabolic disorders such as carbohydrate galactosemia, glycogen storage disease, diabetes mellitus following glucosuria and ketoacidosis. Carbohydrate metabolic disorders. Why it is called as carbohydrate metabolic disorder? The carbohydrate majorly provides about 45 to 65% of the body energy, including the brain energy source. In addition, carbohydrate also help body to stabilize the blood sugar. The carbohydrate dysregulation can occur when there is a defect in the formation of glucose or other sugars. The disease, the metabolic disorder disease can cause bad effect on health. In severe case, can cause kidney failure, liver failure, and heart failure. And most common disorders are acquired. Acquired are not secondary derangement in carbohydrate metabolism such as diabetic ketoacidosis, hyperosmolar coma, and hypoglycemia all affect the central nervous system. Mainly forms of variant of peripheral nervous system also seen in diabetics. Role of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are an essential part of macronutrients and micronutrients. Also provide perform all of its daily activities while also providing energy for the brain and muscles. Carbohydrate affect the blood sugar and insulin level, fat metabolism, and the absorption of nutrient during digestions. Main sources of carbohydrate includes vegetables, fruits, uh, whole grains or legumes. These foods have fairly high fiber content and especially brings many healthy benefit such as protecting the heart and intestine. Next we enter the carbohydrate metabolic disorder. The carbohydrate metabolic disorders can occur when there is a defect in the formation of glucose from other sugars or from starch. It is having two types: inherited carbohydrate metabolic disorders with genetic defect leading to lack of certain metabolic enzymes in sugar metabolisms. Some of the severe diseases, if left untreated, many have poor prognosis, such as galactosemia, manus, diabetics, mucopolysaccharidosis, disease, disease, glycogen storage disease, and pyruvate Pyruvate dehydrogenase deficiency and stasis disease. Acquired carbohydrate metabolic disorders are common in people. The first one is inherited carbohydrate metabolic disorder. Second one is acquired carbohydrate metabolic disorder is common people with diabetics. It occurs lack of insulin hormones or body resistance to insulin hormones, and the cause of this condition that is called as diabetes can be detected by screening. A person has no symptoms. Sometimes it may have the ketoacidosis or coma due to the hypertension. Next, we enter the galactosemia. The disease metabolic disorders. Galactosemia is a high blood level of galactose is a carbohydrate metabolic disorder that is caused by lack of one of the enzyme necessary for metabolizing galactose, a sugar that is a part of larger sugar called lactose, milk sugar. Galactose is a sugar that is a part of milk as part of lactose in some fruits and vegetables. The metabolites that is toxic to the liver and the kidney built up. Galactosemia is caused by lack of one of the enzyme need to metabolize the sugar in milk. Next, symptoms of this galactosemia that is include vomiting, jaundice, diarrhea, and abdominal growth. The diagnosis is based on the blood and urine test. Galactosemia, both parents of the affected children carry a copy of abnormal gene. Because usually two copies of abnormal genes are necessary for the disorder to occur, usually neither parent has the disorder. Symptoms of galactosemia. Symptoms: lactose containing formula, loss of their appetite, vomit, become jaundice, yellow skin and eyes. Jaundice in the newborn, have the diarrhea and stop growing normally. And some more symptoms also have this galactosemia. Diagnosis of galactosemia by urine and blood test. Galactosemia is detectable with blood test. Screening test for newborn in all state of USA. Prognosis for galactosemia. If galactosemia is recognized at birth and adequately treated, liver and kidney problems do not develop, the initial mental development it has occurred. However, even with adequate treatment, children with galactosemia may have the lower intelligence quotient IQ than their siblings, and they often develop speech and balance problem during adolescence. Treatment of galactosemia: elimination of galactose from the diet. So main precautions treatment. Galactosemia is treated by completely eliminating milk and milk product, the main source of galactose. Affect the child diet. Next, the metabolic disorder is glycogen storage disease or carbohydrate metabolic disorder that occur when there is defect in enzyme that are involved in metabolism of glycogen, that is resulting in glycogen abnormalities, weakness and large liver, low blood sugar and confusion. It is also occur when parent pass the defective gene that cause this disease onto their children. Glycogen storage diseases are caused by the lack of enzyme needed to change glucose into glycogen and break down the glycogen into the glucose. Next, glycogen is a carbohydrate is made of many glucose molecules linked together. The sugar glucose in the body, main source of energy for the muscles including the heart and brain. Any glucose that is not used immediately for energy is held now in the liver, muscles, and kidney in the form of glycogen and is released when needed by the body. Next, symptoms glycogen storage disease. Disease cause few symptoms, others are fatal. The specific symptoms, age at which symptoms starts and their severity vary considerably between the disease. The type 257 main symptoms usually have myopathy. Type 136 symptoms are low level of sugar in blood, that is called hypoglycemia. Low level of sugar in the blood cause sweating, confusion, sometimes coma. Diagnosis of this disease, diagnosed by blood test, biopsy, MRI scan. Treatment, carbohydrate rich diet, prevention of low blood sugar through frequent, nearly continuous feeding. Treatment of treatment for specific complication. Treatment depends upon the glycogen storage disease. Next, we enter the main diseases. In society have the feared one, they have to resist this kinds of disease. Diabetes mellitus is or simply diabetes is a group of metabolic diseases in which a person has high blood sugar either because the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or because cells do not respond to the insulin that is produced. This high blood sugar produces the classical symptoms polyuria, that means too frequent urination, polydipsia, increased thirst, polyphagia, increased hunger. We have the three types of diabetes mellitus. Type 1, that is insulin dependent diabetics mellitus. Type 2, non insulin dependent diabetics mellitus. And third one, gestational diabetes, which is occurs when pregnant woman without previous diagnosis of diabetes develop a high blood sugar level. In other cases, congenital diabetes, which is due to genetical defect, and cystic fibrosis related diabetes, and steroid diabetes induced with high doses of glucocorticoids, and several forms of monogenic diabetes. Untreated diabetes can cause many complications. Acute complications include ketoacidosis and non-keto hyperosmolar coma. Sometimes they have to cause some of the combined form of diabetics. Pathogenesis of diabetics. Pathogenesis is a specific loss of pancreatic beta cells. The dissection's IDDM genes is complicated by the low recurrence rate in diseases among first degree relative. Both process increase destructions and limitation of regenerations are genetically conditioned. Diabetics have the three types. One is inherited insulin dependent diabetics or autoimmune disease dependent diabetics. The autoimmune insulin dependent diabetics arise in person with the gene DR3. It is associated with the autoimmune endocardiopathies, for example, with illness of thyroid gland, autoimmune thyroiditis, diffuse toxic goiter, adrenal gland addition disease. Virus infected insulin dependent diabetics mellitus bind with the genome DR4. Difference from autoimmune on mechanisms of development. Insulin independent diabetics mellitus type principle differ from first. Exogenic insulin does not need exogenic insulin. Metabolic disorder attached to this diabetes are minimal. Diet therapy and per oral glucose decreasing medicines are sufficiently for their compensation. Exogenic insulin refers to the insulin people inject or infuse via the insulin pump. Clinical features: hyperglycemia, glucosuria, polyuria, etc. Diagnosis by blood test. Under treatment, taking insulin or other diabetics medicines is often part of the testing diabetes. Next, glucosuria. In healthy man, partially has not glucose in urine. It is excreted in an amount not more 1 gram. If glucose concentration in blood and primary urine does not exceed 9 millimole per liter, epithelium of canalically reabsorbed it. This maximum concentration is called a nephritic threshold. Polyuria. Glucose is osmotic active substance. The very different diabetes complications are following: ketoacidosis, macroangiopathy, microangiopathy, and neuropathy. Next, we enter ketoacidosis is nothing but in healthy people, synthesis of ketone bodies in liver is strictly controlled. Many regulatory mechanism is access limitations of fat acids and mitochondria of hepatocytes. Mitochondria are the main energy source in hepatocytes and play a major role in extensive oxidative metabolism, normal functions of the liver. The direct cause of microangiopathy in hyperglycemia and synthesis of glycoproteins in basal membrane. There are two main clinical forms: microangiopathy, diabetics retinopathy, and diabetic nephropathy. These are all the main clinical forms of ketoacidosis. Thank you. Thank you, one and all.